All right, everybody. It's the second week of January, and the elation of a new year and all of its traditions has settled in. And now it's time to go win some championships. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast, a sports ethos presentation hosted by yours truly, Aaron Bruski. And guys, I'm going to kind of just hit the gas and go today because I'm sick as a dog, like really, like terribly sick. And I don't know how long my voice is going to hang out. Last night, as I was preparing for the show, doing my dictation because I can't type due to thoracic outlet syndrome, blah, blah, blah. And it was very, very, very daunting. And I didn't think I was going to make it today. But we're going to get you ready for tonight's games. We'll also look at some hot spots around the league. And before we do all that, let's say hi. Sponsor BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from football to NBA, college basketball, to NHL and UFC. BetOnline is your number one sports betting source for the new year, from touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks. So exciting. BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Oh my goodness, deep breath. I am struggling. All right, after the read, I'm struggling. Oh my goodness. Okay, so guys, we're going to talk. We got a bunch of different stuff. And yesterday was actually, from just a pure fantasy perspective, yesterday was one of my favorite days of the year. It's getting prepared for my Sunday fab runs. I got about, 10 teams of consequence in high stakes leagues, and it's all fab driven. And, I had players that were getting injured on my teams. You had Tyrese Halliburton. We'll talk about that. Goga Bitadze. We'll talk about that. And I was trying to figure out, okay, how does this impact my squads? And then I was watching games like Brooklyn and Utah, and things were just kind of morphing at the last second. There's a lot of games on yesterday. So the action was packed. And I think that's kind of how it's going right now in fantasy leagues. There's a lot of teams about to hit their pivot. We're trying to figure out what that pivot is. Are they tanking? Are they moving into that phase? Are they adding weapons for a deep playoff run, or what's going on with what? And I just feel like right now there's just so much good going on in fantasy leagues. Anyway, I'm having a good time, even though I'm sick. And we're going to push through. We're going to talk about kind of who might be silly season heroes in Washington, Brooklyn, and Utah. Those are the teams that kind of coalesced around here today. Also watching Detroit, Houston, and Miami. Each squad's had about 30 minutes per game removed. So we're just trying to get a gauge on that. There was Keon Ellis stuff in Sacramento that I'm sure all of you guys are at least mildly interested. I know he's a hot ad, and he's helped push the Kings to whatever. I think it's 6 or 7 wins in a row now, or 6 out of 7 or 7 out of 8 wins right now since Mike Brown was cut. So we'll talk about all that. We'll also look at the Monday night slate and get you guys ready for that. Speaking of Tyrese Halliburton, so he didn't play in the second half of Sunday's game. It's the bad hamstring. It's the left hamstring. It's the one that ended his playoff run. It's the one that he pushed through to get to the all NBA thresholds, or the contractual thresholds of 65 games and awards, to try to be able to make the most amount of money that he can in the NBA, which is its own topic. But we'll see how long he's going to be out. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an announcement here during the show of whatever's on the way. And this one's kind of simple, but it's worth opening with because you have TJ McConnell. He's always a top 150 guy every season, around 20 minutes per game. So you guys can do the math there. If Halliburton's out, McConnell will be in, and that'll probably jump up to something like 27 minutes per game. He'll probably be like a top 100 or maybe even a top 75 guy. Andrew Nembhard has been a top 135 guy over the last month in his 30 minutes per game. He has a great shot at top 100 or better. And then kind of around the edges, Benedict Mathurin, he definitely has a line of sight on top 100. That's pretty easy. We saw that earlier in the year. But somebody even like Obi Toppin could be a late round guy. So a lot of potential pickups in Indy right now. The other big injury news, and practically no news on it during the game, after the game, and still this morning, no news. And it's a small market kind of a deal. Goga Bitadze didn't play in the second half due to his hip issue. He was questionable to return in that game. Still, I had that game on. I was watching like a hawk. Practically no reporting on it. He kind of started walking, really poorly. And then when he left the floor, he didn't run or anything like that. He walked very slowly off the floor. That's all we know there. In his stead, Jonathan Isaac went for 20 and 11, 2 blocks, 2 threes in his 27 minutes. And he literally stepped right into Wendell Carter's slot in the rotation, and Wendell Carter started at halftime. Now, Wendell Carter has been really bad this season, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better for him. I'm watching him moving around the court. Maybe he's sandbagging some sort of an injury, and maybe there's a future with him actually being spry out there. It just doesn't look like he can do much on the floor other than be basically average or maybe a little bit better in some areas, but it's just not enough to pay the bills. He had just 4 points, 4 rebounds, one block in his 25 minutes. So I'm not running to add Wendell Carter unless I'm very desperate for a center. And Jonathan Isaac, on the other hand, though, for about a week or two, if Goga's actually hurt, we don't know that he actually is. Jonathan Isaac might have a really nice run here for the next 2 weeks. I grabbed him as a speculative add in a couple different places. I don't think it will continue whenever Goga gets back. I mean, this team is going to get healthier, we hope, we think, sooner rather than later. So all of these fringe guys are really going to struggle. But in this 1 to 2 week window with Jalen Suggs also out with a back injury, we don't know how long he will be out, but it feels like he's at least got a week, and then we'll see from there. Cole Anthony started for him. He had 38 minutes, 27 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 threes. That is also a great pickup for a 1 to 2 week window. So I think you got this nice little short window here to get some really nice value out of some Orlando guys. And then Anthony Black also played 37 minutes. Tristan Da Silva, just 1 minute in this game. And I believe it's an illness, but again, the reporting is not great. That was the reporting that I saw most recently on him. And when he gets back, that'll be another 20 plus minutes that get subtracted from guys like Anthony Black. Probably he didn't normally play 37 minutes. So that was the big news out of Orlando. Isaiah Collier in Utah was the other piece of big news, and it's happening very late in the evening. Nobody watching this game. In fact, the people calling the game didn't even talk about the game. That was Noah Eagle and Sarah Kustok. They're very hilarious, but they didn't talk about the game at all. Anyway, Collier, 23 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 block, 3 triples, and the game winner. At one point in time in the game, he actually fell on his face and he left the game. It appeared as if he was not going to be able to return. I kind of flipped the game off at that point in time, and then he comes back and hits the game winner. I don't know what was up with that sequence. Maybe the refs didn't care about that game at all. Regardless, what we saw in this game with Lauri Markkanen out, Walker Kessler out, John Collins was out, Keontae George was out, Jordan Clarkson was out, Johnny Juzang was out, was that Collier went off. And I kind of wonder if Collier is perhaps a better prospect for this team than Keontae George, or maybe they get Keontae George and slide him over into the shooting guard spot and get him off the ball a little bit. I know there's been some rumblings of that, and it's been hard to kind of see if that's been the case, if that will be the case, because of all of the questionable statuses for this team. Players are getting grouped into questionable statuses. It feels like there is a tank rolling through Utah right now. But if Collier happens to be the guy they want to put on the ball more than Keontae George down the stretch, then I do think that he might have the better value between the two. And if you're looking for a silly season hero, I speculatively added Collier, not expecting this to continue, not expecting much in general. I just want to get my marker down on a player in the event that the pivot occurs and he is out in front, or at least in a good spot as that pivot starts. So Isaiah Collier really, really making some noise last night. And for what it's worth, he's a spunky little player, decent athleticism, and at least he has a shot at doing something nice. And then it was fun to see Drew Eubanks put up a top 150 line with 8 and 9 to go with 3 blocks. If this thing gets dismantled and Drew Eubanks has top 150 value, you heard it here first. All right, guys, before we get into the Monday night slate, if you guys are enjoying the show, if you like what we're doing here at Sports Ethos, and you're watching on YouTube, drop a thumbs up on this video. That would help us out a ton. Subscribe. If you're tuning in on Twitter, give us a follow at Ethos Fantasy NBA. And if you're listening on the pod feed, please, by all means, if you enjoy the show, do us a solid, give us a 5-star review. All right, let's get into tonight's slate. I do see some updated news. I guess I'm going to actually handle that during each team review here. Nothing too crazy. Minnesota, 13.5-point favorites at Washington. Washington coming off a back-to-back against OKC. We're going to talk about that a little bit here. But Minnesota, nothing super interesting with these guys. We are, of course, watching Dante DiVincenzo. He's got 3 weeks of top 75 ball, kind of zigzagging around, generally trending upward. He's sitting on a top 50 week. So great news there, as we've generally been fans of picking up Dante DiVincenzo whenever he gets dropped, which was quite a bit earlier in the season. And then Anthony Edwards, just watching to see if he will take a leap I don't know if it's coming, man. The only difference in his numbers this season and last is he's got more threes and lower field goal percentage. So like everything else is practically the same. I'll bag on Julius Randle, and yeah, that's a very big deal and whatnot. But as far as Anthony Edwards taking the leap in the second half of the season, his fantasy value was always going to be contingent upon him getting more of virtually everything based on the fact that he's just simply better than everybody else, and that he's able to do that and sort of being able to have that almost Paolo Banchero-esque increases across the board just because he can. And we haven't seen that yet, but we'll be watching to see if that's the case. On the Washington side, they're actually really interesting right now. As interesting as a bottom feeding tanking squad can get. At least we play fantasy and we can get the benefit out of this. They were down by 40 or something in this game, and they were still rolling out their regular starters. And so I think that informs what you're going to see here out of this squad for the next week, 2 or 3, as we approach the trade deadline. They're showcasing Kyle Kuzma, and Kyle Kuzma was a minus 40 last night. Kyle Kuzma was like 2 for 12 or something, and kind of walking up and down the court and being very Kyle Kuzma. Shout out Sacramento. That's the guy you should go after, Kyle Kuzma. But it's really going to do a lot of damage, I think, to the box score in the next week, 2 or 3. So guys like Justin Champagnie, top 140 over the last 11 games in 22.9 minutes per game. Actually worse, if you take a 2-game sample, he's going to be a tough guy to roster. You're going to have to kind of go on faith with somebody like him that he would get cut loose after this pre-trade deadline zone for the Washington Wizards. So I stashed, now he's effectively a stash. I kept him stashed on almost, I think, every roster. Yeah, every roster I've got Justin Champagnie continuing to stash, and we'll see how this goes. It's really going to be hard to hang on to this guy for 2-3 weeks while they're doing the Kyle Kuzma showcase thing. And frankly, I don't think they're doing anything great by showcasing him, but I guess you got to do it. So Justin Champagnie, Bub Carrington, these guys are not going to have a chance at hitting the good stuff until Kuzma is traded or whatever they decide to do with Kuzma in particular. And Malcolm Brogdon, he is doubtful, but he's not involved right now. But if he comes back, it gets even worse. So just sort of 2 to 3 weeks, know that Washington's going to be a mess, and treat Champagnie and Carrington, who's had a top 155, 170 stretch over the last 8 games. And this is actually a pretty normal sample, I think, for him. It's going to be tough for these guys. And for Carrington to truly hit his value, he's going to need guys to get out of the rotation so he can take more shots. And he's going to have to just be better across the board, because right now what we see is what we get, and that's not worth stashing for. But if you see a future with him getting a lot more volume across the board, then you can start to see a top 100, maybe top 75 player. And then if your format supports the things he's not good at, then you can maybe even get a little bit more, but I don't want to get over my skis there. Bilal Coulibaly has an ultra green light. He had 5 cash counters in last night's game. I think he's a mustache player. With the ultra green light, you kind of get a sense of what they're going to allow him to do, especially as you get into silly season in February, March, and April. Okay, let's get out of that game. Let's get into Detroit at New York. New York had a 34-point blowout win last night over Milwaukee, so this is a classic trap game for them. However, Detroit's also been playing over their skis a little bit, which is great for my Coach of the Year bet on JB Bickerstaff. I had to check in on those odds. If I wanted to cash my ticket in, I would be profitable right now, but I'm holding out for the big 52-1 hit. So we'll see how that goes, but it's been a good run for Detroit. Cade Cunningham's been a 1st or 2nd round player, depending on if you're looking at 8 or 9 cat formats over the last 2 weeks since Jaden Ivey got hurt. And you've just seen a rising tide to lift all boats. It was the thing I was questioning. I wasn't really sure if it was going to happen, but it was the thing I was questioning as the Ivy news hit. Was there enough usage to go around for these other players to kind of get them more involved and get them to be better, statistically? Tobias Harris, top 40 to 50 over that span. Jalen Duren, top 60. Asar Thompson, top 125 or 150, depending on the format. In his 20 minutes per game, he's getting you 3.2 steals per game over the last 2 weeks. So a lot of room for upward mobility there. Tim Hardaway, top 150. All these dudes are shooting way too rich. And that's my concern. I would normally look at this bet, New York -7 or Detroit +7, if you will. I would say this is a really good time to bet Detroit. I'll probably say this is a no bet because anything that New York leaves on the table in terms of having their big win against a top team and having little old Detroit show up. Detroit with their expected regression in shooting that's going to come at some point in time here. I just want to stay away from that. On the New York side, Jalen Brunson questionable with his shoulder injury. These guys are going to play through anything until the limbs fall off. Speaking of falling off, OG Anunoby now just top 75 on the season. I don't know what to say there other than something maybe had to give. Mikal Bridges top 90, OG top 150 over the last 12 games. Is it a buy low moment? Maybe. Is there a concern perhaps over his elbow? Maybe he had the freshest legs that he's going to have for the season, and therefore you saw all of those poppy steals and blocks. I don't know, but I would probably just call him a top 75 guy going forward and call it a day. Golden State minus 4.5 at Toronto. Golden State's got Steph Curry back. Andrew Wiggins is playing. Draymond Green questionable with an illness, not present at shoot-around today. That feels pretty unlikely for a game, but if you're going to go travel to Toronto, I guess you might get your money's worth. I don't have the map in front of me. I don't know how Golden State's been zigzagging wherever they've been, but I'd say 51-49 Draymond does not play. Anyway, Pajemski day to day, Kuminga out at least 2 more weeks. We're keeping an eye on Trace Jackson Davis. He's been a top 100 guy over the last 11 games. Buddy Hield, the cockroach, top 95 or 125, depending on which format you're in over the last 3 games. 16 points, 3.3 triples, 6 boards, 4 assists in 30 minutes per game. Love you, buddy. You're not a cockroach, but your fantasy value will not die, at least until I drop you. That's when it returns. Toronto, my question there is Scotty Barnes about to kick it into high gear. Top 35 over the last 10 games. It's a high water mark for him this season. Is he kind of fed up with not being as productive as he would like to be as Toronto wanting to feed him? Is there I don't know if it's a sell high or a buy low. Is there an opportunity for somebody to get in on something in either direction? Feels like his value is so variable right now. I think it's probably a 2/3 chance that he's not going to be as productive as folks wanted him to be this season, and also shut down or deal with an injury or something like that, and it's just going to be all bad. It feels like his season is cursed, if you will. Or does that all mean that the opportunity is there and somebody can get Scotty Barnes for a song right now, top 50 guy that's pointing in the right direction, and then Barnes somehow pulls together a second half for the ages? I don't know. I gave you the odds that I think it is, but it's one of the most interesting things. Maybe not going on in fantasy hoops, but it's certainly the most interesting thing going on in Toronto right now. Also, Chris Boucher on a bit of a hot streak, 16 points, 4 triples, 5 boards, and 75% shooting over his last 3 games. He fits the mold of a guy that could maybe get some run during the silly season. I mean, we've seen it happen in the past. It does feel like, just the timing of a Chris Boucher swan song. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. It's not happening later. And a guy that can go out there and fill up garbage time minutes. It has Chris Boucher's name written all over it. Is it something you're going to go run out and do, grab, buy into? No. You'll take a flyer on it if you need a big man. Manuel quickly all over the board. Who knows? Top 100 week. He's not shooting well. His counting stats are down. Can he get it going? He's probably got about a week or 2 before he's sort of quote unquote fully back up to strength. So we'll keep an eye on that. Jakob Poeltl still kind of struggling lately. RJ Barrett outside of the top 175. Bruce Brown getting minutes. Grady Dick hasn't been good. Top 225 over the last 4 games. They're just trying to figure it out right now in Toronto, and probably a bit more shaky than folks even thought for Darko Rajakovic. And though I do think that they like him, it just feels like things got a little sour there in Toronto when everybody knew that they were giving up this season. Anyway, Memphis at Houston. This is a Dylan Brooks revenge game. I think this game will be played hard. Now, John Morant is questionable all of a sudden with an illness. So we'll keep an eye out on that. If he doesn't go, then Scottie Pippen Jr. gets another game of productivity. This team actually got pretty normal, and it's hard to say that about a Memphis squad. Desmond Bane cruising at top 20 levels. Jaren Jackson Jr. basically right there. And if there is something interesting about these guys, Santi Aldama, quiet since returning from injury, and he's been popping up on waiver wires, top 80 on the season. That's kind of hard to find out there. So I would scoop Santi Aldama up real quick if he pops up on the waiver wire. On the Houston side, Tari Eason, doubtful. Amin Thompson has 7 games of top 30 play, 15 and 11, 3.5 assists, 2.7 defensive stats. This is why why his rank was so high in the B150. So good stuff there. Fred VanVleet, 9 games of top 25 ball. And basically with the minutes leaving with Jabari Parker's injury, we're starting to see guys get the oxygen that they need. Jalen Green, 5 games of top 15 ball. That's sell high as sell high gets. Cam Whitmore, top 150, 175 over the last couple of weeks. Jabari Smith, what did I say? Jabari Parker? I'm telling you guys, I'm so hopped up on freaking flu medicine. I don't know what my name is. Miami at Clippers. Clippers 6-point favorites here. Just watching to see what a post Jimmy Butler scenario looks like. Tyler Hero, top 20 over the last 4 games. Of course, Miami's going to get something back, I think. But, what does it look like without him? Haywood Highsmith, top 65 week. Top 10 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 triples, great defensive stats. Just top 170 on the season, though, in 25 minutes per game. So can he be a late round guy if Jimmy's gone and they don't get anything big back? Yeah, probably. Jaime Jaquez, he's sitting on a top 70 week, 16.7 boards, 5 assists, 2.3 steals, a triple per game, 34 minutes, percentages all over the place. But it does look like he's actually morphing into a volume guy, and he's never had enough volume to take on the bad stat problems that he has, low defensive stats and, percentages that aren't great. So if he's going to get this amount of steals, if he's going to be this active, he's going to be the go-to guy in many respects. If Terry Rozier is going to keep struggling, I mean, Jaime Jaquez, he's probably a top 100 guy going forward. Now, that a lot of heavy lifting with what Jimmy Butler's scenario actually looks like. But if they turn the page somehow and they don't get guys back somehow, or whatever the plan may be in Miami, if Jaime Jaquez is sitting at the top at the end of this, don't be surprised. And he'd probably be about a top 100 or maybe even a top 75 guy at that rate. Terry Rozier wasn't terrible in his last game, and that's pretty big news because somewhere in there is a basketball player. We don't know if it's an injury-driven thing, a confidence-driven thing, a fit-driven thing, or something else. But Terry Rozier used to be good at basketball, hasn't been good at basketball this season. He had one semi-decent game in his last one. Duncan Robinson has been slow the last couple of weeks. That might be a sign that he's about to go off. Your mileage may vary there. And Khalil Ware, top 180 over the last 11 games with 1.7 defensive stats, 0.6 triples, and just 16.5 MPG. He's been slow this week. But, had some bigger performances. If you look at the last 7 games, he's a top 130 guy. And I think when you look at a team that doesn't know what they want to do going forward, are they going to push Bam Adebayo through anything significant? Or are they going to try to save this guy for the duration of his contract? That's kind of where I'm sitting with Ware. I'm trying to buy into Ware wherever I can. And, it's not like a go run and do this right now thing. If your league puts a value on centers, if you're in a 2-center league, if you're in a deeper format and centers are hard to come by, I think he's actually a really good target right now. Let's get to San Antonio at the Lakers. Lakers are 3.5-point favorites. I don't know how they will come out and play with all the fire stuff going on. It's kind of hard to say, probably a stay away game. They might come out and play really hard though. So LA minus 3.5 might actually be a really good bet there. San Antonio, Jeremy Sohan questionable for this one. And it's really just been kind of sad in San Antonio. Devin Vassell's been bad. He's kind of messed up Julian Champagne's value. I'm just kind of waiting around. I'm not must holding Julian Champagne. A lot of my teams have an abundance of forwards. And with that, it was been kind of easy to part with him, knowing I could even probably go get him in the following week, which I've been able to do. But it's just boring in San Antonio. It's boring. Los Angeles Lakers, you got LeBron, Anthony Davis, both probable. Max Christie's been a top 80 guy over the last 12 games with 13 points, 2 triples, 1.2 steals. Great percentages, probably unsustainable. But he's been getting it done. If you're in need of a player that kind of does a little bit everywhere and percentages are something that are important to you, give him a look. But I don't think that this is going to be a thing going forward. And then Austin Reeves, of course, top 50 over the last month. So that buy low looking really good. Rui Hachimura falling off lately. All right, guys. We stop real quick here and let you know that we appreciate your support. And we really, really want your guys' feedback. We're trying to make some investments right now into the platform. And it's kind of like, what do we do with our stuff? Where do we put our energy, our time, and our money? If you have feedback on what you would like to see here, things that can help you win your fantasy leagues, things that can make your day-to-day experience really, really good, send us a note. Send us a note on Twitter. Send us a note in this chat. Send us a note wherever. Email support at sportsethos.com. Let us know what you think. If you guys want to support us, get to the website, check out one of our premium subscriptions. That's one of the ways that we want to enhance your experience and also enhance your winning. So thank you all for that. Let's get into some of the hot spots before we get out of here. Brooklyn, Phoenix, and Sacramento are on my docket here. Brooklyn, there's so much availability. There's so much stuff you can pick from in Brooklyn, and it's actually kind of getting a little decent. If I'm going to rank these guys in terms of priority, not counting the guys that might be more obvious, like D'Angelo Russell, Cam Johnson's probably on your roster. Both Cams are probably on your roster. So not talking about those guys, but after that, and I might even consider like a Zaire Williams, Keon Johnson as a higher priority than a D'Angelo Russell. I don't know if D'Angelo Russell wants to play in Brooklyn. I don't know if Brooklyn wants to play any of these guys. So if you wanted to prioritize one of the young guys that may or may not have value going forward, if you wanted to prioritize one of these guys ahead of them, I wouldn't hate you for it. But Zaire Williams, 19.6 boards, 3 triples, 8 of 8 from the foul line, 1 steal, 32 minutes. He's had a top 120 value over the last 4 games in his 27 minutes per game. And that, to me, it seems like he's a guy they just want to see what he can do. And if he went top 100 the rest of the way, playing, say, 25 minutes per game, 30 minutes per game, if things got really good for him, this would not be shocking at all. Yeah, he's got some health history, and who knows at any level if any of these guys can stay consistent, meaning like they play all their games the rest of the way. Could be in and out of the lineup for all of these guys. But if you're going to throw that aside because you just want to try to get a silly season hero, he's on the top of this list with Keon Johnson right behind him. He had 8 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 triples on 3 of 9 shooting. That's kind of a normal shooting line for him. He played just 21 minutes. Why he only got just 21 minutes, I don't know. He's been more in the kind of 30-minute range lately. He, I think, is probably held back in my ranking here just by the field goal percentage. And Zaire, it feels like maybe they want to, develop him a little bit more. But those two, I think, are your kind of top pickups. And Tosin, I'm gonna blow this name. Andre, be ready. Tosin Abwamwan, everybody. 22 points, 5 boards, 2 threes in 24 minutes. Now, I don't know if his stat set is going to support high-end fantasy value. And I don't know too much about him, but watching the game last night and the small amounts that I've watched him in the past, he's got like 20 NBA games under his belt. He's at least this most recent stuff has been pretty encouraging. Like he seems pretty smart with the basketball. It seems like he can create advantages offensively. I don't know about the defensive side of the ball, but they seem to really like him there. It's almost as if they found something that they want a new shiny toy that they want to see how far this thing can go. So I would have him as the third in this list. And if you're wondering where Nick Claxton and Ben Simmons go in this list, you could throw Nick Claxton at the top of this list. And you could also put him beneath Tosin. Claxton, top 100 over the last week. So at least we're getting something out of him, but it's been bad this season. And he's kind of a guy that they might want to protect, injury wise. So I wouldn't have any problem with you making him, third or fourth on this list. He's obviously got a role. He's obviously got a spot. If you want to call that the rationale to put him number 1 on this list, I'm fine with it. Ben Simmons can, he can go do Ben Simmons things. We don't know if he'll play 2 games in a row at any point in time, even if he's played 10 games in a row. That probably means the next game off is coming. So those 2 guys are what they are. But the others that I've mentioned, I have in that order. And then Noah Clowney, 0 for 10 shooting in 32 minutes, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. Top 140 over the last 4 games with 14 points, 2.3 triples, 5 boards, and that's it. I just think this guy, he did the old Rick Vaughn where he went out and he worked on his 3-point shooting and forgot, the other aspects of the game, and there's just not going to be any fantasy value there. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like there's nothing cooking. We got some news. Malcolm Brogdon, he's going to be out tonight, so that was expected. Tosin Awoma, Well, that's way too simple. Tosan I guess it's not that simple. Ewama. Oh my goodness. Other news, Aya Dosunmu will scrimmage with player development coaches and low-minute players today. If he comes out of that without incident, Billy Donovan said he could return Wednesday versus the Hawks. And that's kind of what the reporting has felt like with him. So you can adjust the roles and the minutes accordingly. Probably doesn't change too much. I want to know more about Kobe White. Tell me about Kobe White. Phoenix, nothing too big cooking here. In Phoenix, we have Grayson Allen couldn't finish Sunday's game due to left knee soreness. And it sounds like it's something he's been managing. And so this is unfortunate. It's kind of small market stuff, Achilles, knee, and a brand new deal. None of that really lines up very well. And the fact that he's so heavy, why is he so heavy? I don't know. Like, if you've got left knee issues, why are you putting on weight? I don't know. You looked so athletic last year. Why did you do all these things, Grayson Allen? And it seems like he's in such a good mood all the time as well. So it's all things are pointing in the wrong directions with him. He's been top 75 over the last 6 games. Why is this important? I mean, we've been talking about Grayson Allen all year. And what I would say with the news of left knee soreness just popping up out of nowhere and them holding him out of the second half of a game, I think we just have to tread very lightly with Grayson Allen. This information, it makes it to the point where, okay, cool. If you get me something above late round value, awesome. I'm going to consider you a late round value at best the rest of the way. And that's the story. That's the story for the rest of the year. We don't have to talk about Grayson Allen anymore. Dr. A will be so thrilled, but Royce O'Neal's back, and he was like crazily available in fab leagues among competitive players with high stakes on the line. I made some bigger bids, and I could have made dollar bids. He's been a top 100 guy all season. They love him. He's a connector. It doesn't matter how many of the big three are hurt at any given time. He's just going to come in and do his job, and Grayson Allen being hurt is going to make it even easier. Ryan Dunn, top 125 over the last 11 games with 2.8 cash counters, 9 points, 5 boards, neutral percentages, 0.2 turnovers. This is late round stuff. If defensive stats, cash counters, threes, steals, and blocks are something that you need, Ryan Dunn might be worth a look. And then that gets us to Sacramento here. Keon, rewarded for basically carrying the team out of the dismal dark ages of the Mike Brown firing, gets rewarded with 20 minutes last night, and still good for top 160 value. He's got 3 weeks of top 75 play. The value's there. But, this question of, did Mike Brown do it? Did Doug Christie come in and save Keon? Well, he got just 20 minutes last night, and you're starting to see the organizational priorities. Nobody's going to bench Malik Monk anytime soon. But if they lose enough, there's going to be a point in time, I think, where the Kings start losing. And they'll really have to come to grips with, can we really afford to have another offensive guy in an offensive lineup and our defensive guy that's making like crazy highlight plays every single possession? Can we afford to have him coming off the bench playing 20 minutes per game? They got lucky and they won this one against Chicago last night, or yesterday, I should say. And they got lucky. They really did. Keon went in at the end of the game and he stopped a red hot Zach LaVine, and it was beautiful. And it was just enough to get the win. But as far as fantasy value goes for Keon, look, this is always going to, I can tell you what he's capable of. I can tell you what he should be doing. If he gets the minutes, I can tell you what he will be doing. But I can't tell you that Sacramento will get out of their own way. I would personally roster him. Keegan Murray, he looks good. Like, it's crazy to see a player who's confident, who's healthy, shooting. The snap and the follow through and the backspin on his shot is there. It wasn't there the entire season. So he's been a top 25 to 50 guy over the last week or two. The buy low on Keegan Murray, if people haven't figured that out, I might have softened on the buy low just a little tiny bit, but not really. I think anytime a player of his caliber is struggling the way that he has, and you got the stuff that's been going on in Sacramento, they want him on the floor. And unless some crazy trade rumors pop up like Kyle Kuzma, if that keeps happening, who knows? Maybe something bad will happen with Keegan. But absent a Kyle Kuzma trade rumor upsetting the apple cart, Keegan Murray is a super buy low. And that's going to take us out of this show here, guys, today. Thank you guys so much for your listening. And I can't say enough about the feedback. Got some great feedback from a couple of you guys the other day, and it was really, really awesome. We're here for you guys. This industry's gone a little bit south over the last couple of years. And, there's just the finances and the mechanisms that are out there with, planet Earth. They're not great for the fantasy industry right now, but we want to keep growing, which we are. And with that, we want to know how we can serve you guys best. And then on your guys' end, if you guys can subscribe to our stuff, the Fantasy NBA Today podcast, so you don't miss an episode, all of the social stuff at Sports Ethos, at Ethos Fantasy NBA. Hit thumbs up buttons, hit favorite buttons, all that good stuff. It helps us out. And this one's easy for you guys. Go download the app. It's free. It's awesome. It's my spirit animal. As I'm running around trying to keep up with the kiddo, keep up with the realities of running this business. It's all crazy out there. I go to the app. It's so easy. And we just did another update. It looks so beautiful. I love it. Shout out to George, who's really spearheading that project. It's awesome. It's free. So you guys can go get that for free. Thank you, Andre. And again, thank you for being a part of our journey. Let's build something great together. This has been Fantasy NBA Today, presented by Bet Online. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, be well.